Let's see. Armageddon definition. Here we go. A dramatic and catastrophic conflict typically seen as likely to destroy the world or human race. Also used, an overdramatic and abysmal episode typically seen as likely to destroy any goodwill a show is left over. Works for me. What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is The Flash, Season 8, Episode 1, Armageddon Part 1. It's going to be parts 1 through 5 for the next 5 episodes. But yeah, getting into this one, there's a lot to get through. I'm so sorry for how long this review might end up being because there's just so much to talk about. So much stupidity to talk about here. So first of all, I think we'll start with the dumbest plotline because there's so many. I honestly... I kind of wanted to go back, but I also did not want to subject myself to that episode again. I kind of wanted to go back and time how long the actual main plot of Armageddon was in this episode. Because if I had to guess, I would say 5 to 10 minutes at most. In a 45-ish minute episode, 5 to 10 minutes was actually focused on the idea of Armageddon. The rest of it was bullshit side stories that don't mean a damn thing unless you really, really, really like characters that talk so excitedly about stuff that they do and overhype each other and get all down whenever things go wrong. Basically, if you still enjoy Disney Channel, unironically, and not for nostalgia, you'll like this. If you're somebody who you look back on Disney Channel and go, those shows, those were fun when we were younger, weren't they? Those were a lot of fun. But you look at it now and go, but if a show is not written for kids, kind of dumb, then you'll look at this show and go, wow, this is really dumb. I really can't think of any other way to describe it. It is written so much like a Disney Channel show. There are so many stupid, idiotic side stories going on that feel Disney Channel-esque. So we'll start with Allegra. She's given a promotion by Iris. She's now supervisor or something along those lines, and so now she's deciding what everybody is going to be working on. But oh no, looks like the people that are working under her don't respect her, and so she tells them what to do, but they don't listen and they go do their own thing. And then she's got to give a passionate, empowered speech about how important journalism is and how we got to tell the truth, we got to tell everybody's story, and that's what journalism is. All these media sites and all these media corporations, yeah, they're out there for you. That's what true journalism is. So just trust everything you hear. Trust us. We're not getting paid by anybody to say this. It's so dumb. We've had this before. We've had this whole bullshit, journalism is so important. Yeah, it can be. But most of the time, this is not what journalism is. And maybe that's what they want to try to get a message out about. But the fact of the matter is, you don't see this. We don't see this in our real life. To think about seeing this is laughable because everybody has their own opinion. They cannot stay objective about it. So most of the time we do see journalism turn into this one-sided hit piece targeting whatever they want to go against. That's what it's become. And the fact of the matter is, it's likely not going to change because everybody's human. Everybody's going to have their own opinions. And when they're writing articles, when they're reporting on something happening, they're going to write based on what they're seeing and what they're interpreting. That's how it works. And sometimes you don't get the whole story. Sometimes you can't get the whole story. Making this whole side story, which took up a good chunk of the episode, just to sit there and, we got to tell them what true journalism is. Well, first of all, most of the people watching your show are probably not journalists. So you're preaching to journalists that are probably not watching your show. So that's already stupid. But also, I just don't care about Allegra. She's not that interesting of a character. You've not given me a reason to want to see more of her. And yet here we are spending so much time with her. The only interesting thing about this is apparently Cassandra from The Librarians is on the show now. I like her as an actress from that show. Don't really like her here, though, because she's kind of acting like a piece of shit. That was about it. Everything else was just so dumb. And I knew exactly where it was going, too, as soon as she was trying to get them to, to work how she wanted them to and write the stories and get the interviews that she wanted. And they were sitting there, we gotta interview these people and these people. And, that's not going to get people reading it, though. We got to get people reading it. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I already know where the story is going. I know Iris is probably going to be like, hey, you can do this. And then she's going to go in, she's going to do it. And I figured they would be like, But of course, they have to have the one that still doesn't like her because this story is probably going to continue for some dumb reason. And then on top of that, you've got the Ray and Chuck storyline. And that, It's funny, I actually went back for this one because it's been a while since I watched any of these CWDC shows, and I watched my reviews of the last season just to see what my thoughts were. And there was one episode, I don't remember which one it was now in particular. There's one I was talking about how Chuck had this whole episode where he was either mopey and pouting or he was his super upbeat streamer personality. I don't like the streamer personality because he reminds me of a lot of streamers that I'm just not really a fan of. I feel like it feels so forced and put on every time I see somebody who acts like this when they're streaming. I don't like that. And then the mopey stuff is all just so, I can't even think of a good word for it. It's just so, ugh. I hate stories like this where you got characters that just get so down on themselves and, oh, poor, pitiful me. I can't stand it. Because it feels like they're sitting there downing on themselves because it feels like they want so. It's like the people who post these long sad things on Facebook constantly and are just like, oh, here's what's going on with me today, guys. And then next week, oh, guys, this is what happened to me today. Oh, it's like they want attention. They want people to feel bad for them, and they want people to be like, no, it's okay. I can't stand it. It's such a. It honestly, there have been a few times whenever I've had something going on, and I feel like I want to update people on what's going on in case people don't hear from me or whatever. I feel like sometimes I want to say something, but at the same time, I think about those people that will post stuff like that looking for attention. I'm like, I don't want to come off like I'm looking for attention. That's how Chuck, to me, it seems like he just wants attention. Anytime he does something that messes things up, it feels like he's just asking for attention. Here, after the whole thing with Ray, he goes into the command room or whatever it's called, and he's sitting there, oh man, I messed it up. Oh, I'm just messing up everything today. Just sitting there going, screw you. Screw you for sitting there trying. Guys, I screw up everything. Don't ask me why though, because it doesn't really matter. I'm just a screw up. God, why do the writers do this? Why do the writers make characters like this? It's so bad. Oy vey. But then going into the Ray side of things, because obviously we deal with that mopey pouty part of Chuck's performance with Ray because he has this whole thing set up. He's excited to introduce his friends to this guy who's very into tech stuff and might be able to help him out. And Ray is just looking to kind of settle down a little bit. He wants to work on more of his own stuff, and he also wants to work on being a husband to Nora. And that's perfectly fine. The problem is this show doesn't think that's perfectly fine. When it first started and Chuck got all mopey and depressed and Ray started to feel bad, I'm like, first of all, you did all of this without even asking him. It's your fault. You should not be sitting there doing the whole guilt trip mopey thing because you didn't bother to ask him whether or not he was okay with this. It doesn't matter whether or not he's trying to slow down a bit. You should still ask him whether or not he's okay with you introducing a group of your friends to him so they can pitch their ideas. So that's already the first problem I have there. Moving on from that, though, the clear message from this episode was, hey, don't slow down. Keep going. If you have this brilliant brain and you can use it, or if you have this capability and you can use it, you should just keep working. Don't stop. Don't take time for yourself. Keep going. Keep working. Keep pushing. Here's the thing. I don't know if anybody needs to hear this, but don't listen to this episode. If you need to take time for yourself, absolutely do that. I know by the end of it, he talks about having a more balance, like being able to help, but also having time for himself, and how that balance is something he might more so be looking for so he can still help out a bit. But the fact of the matter is, he is completely in his right. If he just wants to take time to himself, back off of the whole superhero thing, absolutely. There's no reason why he should be forced back into this life by people like Chuck and like Barry saying, oh, but I don't understand. I thought you loved this stuff. Well, yeah, I do. I'm still working on my own stuff. Yeah, but I mean, you could be helping people right now. You're not doing that? That's such peer pressure. Like, it just blows my mind that that's the angle they decided to go with this. This idea of, hey, you should be doing more, Ray. You should be trying to help out more. Let the guy live. He finally has a chance after doing all of this stuff for Palmer Tech, for the Legends. He went through hell and back. He did so much. He saved the timeline. I think it's okay if he wants to take a moment, take a breath, and say, you know what? I've done quite a bit. I'm going to step back for a little bit. If he wants to go back into the world later, great. If he wants to step back into the tech world and try to create and try to help people create, fantastic. But at the moment, that's not what he feels like he wants to do. So why is this show trying to say, no, that's not an okay way to feel? That's some bullshit. We also have Kristen Kramer come back in, and that's so much fun because I knew I didn't like her, but I couldn't remember why, and then I watched my reviews of last season and it reminded me the fact that she went from such an awful human being that was so terrible and so awful to metahumans, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh guys, be okay with her because she turned it around. It just, you got to make me care for her character if you want me to see her turn it around, and you didn't. You made me absolutely despise her. Now all of a sudden I'm just supposed to be like, okay, she's good now, cool. And obviously her metahuman powers are broken as hell too. So that's fun to see. Also, the little interaction between her and Barry. I felt like that was kind of dumb on Barry's part. Like, he very clearly seems concerned about her meta powers. And of course, that's going to make her suspicious. I know why he's concerned, but you can still ask it in a way that doesn't sound like, hey, so about your mirror powers, how exactly does that work? Like, do you just get them if they're around you? Like, what happens? Like, if they were, say, I don't know, a speedster, if he started saying that, I was gonna lose my flipping mind. But it was very clear that he was concerned about it, and she picked up on it, and he managed, I don't even know how he managed to play it off, but it was still just, it was weird for him to act that way. So I heard you're a meta, you've got these mirror powers. How exactly does that work? You could be more curious about it than you are concerned, but that to me, that just feels like I can't tell if it's a writing thing where they wrote that he was supposed to be nervous because, oh, it plays up the funny, look at him looking all nervous, or if it was just a director mistake where they just wanted Barry to look nervous because, I don't know, maybe Kristen's going to find out soon that he's the Flash, because secret identities don't matter in this world of secret identity superheroes, right? Insane. Also, something a little weird. There's a moment where Chuck said something about, like, he was going to die. I can't remember the exact line now, but he said something about dying, and they looked at Cecile and said, sorry. I know that Joe's not in this episode, and I know Jesse Martin went to another show, which I do plan to watch, actually, because it looks like a pretty fun show. The Irrational. I had to look it up. It looks like a pretty fun show, so I'll check it out. But I don't know if he left around this time, and since Chuck said something about dying, did they kill Joe off in between seasons? Because if so, the hell? That would be stupid as hell, but then again, it doesn't seem outside of the realm of possibility for this show. But before we get to the main plot, there is a couple of just little scenes that stood out to me as just really, really dumb. First of all, there was a scene where Chuck is recording himself at the tech con, and Barry walks up to him, says hi, even though he sees the camera, starts to talk about some of the Flash stuff. I'm just thinking, Barry's not an idiot. He knows what streaming is. He knows what he's holding right there. He sees him clearly talking. He knows he's a streamer, and he just comes up, hey, yeah, so about helping me out the other day when I was, taking on the one guy. I guess Barry's an idiot now? So what? And then there's a moment where we see Despero put some thoughts into Barry's mind, showing him the future. And of course, he's sitting there freaking out because he thinks he's about to cause the end of the world. And they're sitting there going, well, who knows? Maybe he was lying to you. Cecile steps in and says, well, don't worry. I looked at the thing he put inside your mind, and I read his feelings through that thought that he put in your mind. And guess what? He's telling the truth. I know this is a world that is fiction. And I know they can do some BS stupid stuff with the powers. That is next level BS, though. When you really think about that, the vision of the future that he put in Barry's mind, there are fragments still in there that she went into his mind, read the feelings of the guy that put him in there, and found out he was telling the truth. Because you guys don't have an AI that can see into the future. Gideon, I think they still have the Gideon program in there. Maybe that got destroyed last season. I'm forgetting about it. It's not like you have something that has that ability to see into the future and see what happens. My God, it was so dumb. It felt like the way to, don't worry guys, they're going to find out that this is the truth. So we're going to have Cecile do it for them. We got it. Come on. And final thing before the main plot, something that wasn't bad, it was just kind of in there, and I'm a little confused why they put it in there. Was obviously you have Ray Palmer back in the show, and so they gave him a couple of moments to remind us, oh yeah, remember he was Superman. Why? We just had the Crisis not that long ago. I mean, well, I guess technically, if you're looking at it from release date, it's probably been a while since the Crisis. But we got to see him as Superman again. Why all of a sudden, as the Atom, are you reminding us? Because as he's running away to put the Atom suit on, he's ripping off his shirt like Superman. And then when he and Chuck are talking in the command room about like a weakness, he mentions kryptonite, and of course, oh, because he's Superman, guys. All right, but now, after all of that, yes, I'm still not done because we have the main plot, which is the superhero stuff, because that, to me, even though this show doesn't seem to think so, this is the main plot of the show. It's the Flash, not Barry and friends, and sometimes he's a superhero. So we see this gang, don't even know where they came from. Apparently they were in the show before. I don't remember them. It was so long ago. They're awful. The acting was terrible. The dialogue for them was awful. Terrible puns based on cards because they've got the King, Queen, Jack, and 10. I don't know why one wasn't called Ace, King, Queen, Jack. How does that make sense? You've got King, Queen, Jack, 10. Like, King and Queen are both titles, so you can call people King and Queen. Jack is a name. 10 is not a name. You know what is a name? Ace. Mind-blowing, right? These are probably comic book characters. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they probably just took them out of the comics. So maybe whoever wrote these characters was just that dumb, and they didn't think to make Ace the final member of the group instead of 10. But the acting and the dialogue was terrible. Talking about folding. One of them said jackpot. Is that a card thing? I'm pretty sure that's a gambling thing. All of them were talking about, folding. I can't remember all of them now, actually. Shuffling the deck at one point. All in. Full house, I think they said at some point. So yeah, just so many bad card-related puns outside of jackpot, which is just a gambling-related pun. But their first fight scene with the guards, lame. Lame as hell. You've got the one guy who's got laser vision. You've got the one girl who's apparently really good at fighting. You got the one guy who's really strong. And then the queen can read everybody's minds. That's basically it. That's all they've got. So they go and they do their thing. And then they plan to steal this computer chip and steal all this money and then kill the guy that helped them do it. And then Flash shows up and I'm thinking to myself, well, this should be easy. And thankfully it was. Because all I could think to myself was, okay, so she can read his mind. He's the fastest man alive. It's like she reads his mind, knows what he's about to do. He's already done it. By the time you can even start to tell them what he's about to do, he's probably already done it. But they don't even do that. They do something even stupider where he has a thought, she reads his mind, tells them what to do, but then he thinks really fast too, so he changed his plan. Why is that even a thing? Just make it where she reads his mind, he's about to attack us, and then cut. That's the thing. This could have been really funny. This could have been hilarious. You got to zoom in on her as she's reading his mind, and then you hear her, he's about to attack us. Zoom out, and they're already trapped. They're already wrapped up and captured. That would have been funny as hell. Because it would have just shown, yeah, you can read his mind. Doesn't mean you can react fast enough to deal with him. But instead they have to do this stupid thing where he does this Quicksilver-esque, we see the girl flying to him, so he goes up and turns her to go punch the big guy. We see him turn the head of the one guy to laser the two of them. Why? It wasn't even that impressive, to be honest. It just looked like they had the girl hanging on a little wire, like invisible wire there in the middle, and that's how he turned her. It's not impressive. And you're not going to top the Quicksilver scene from X-Men Days of Future Past. You're not going to top it. I mean, they even tried to top it when they did Apocalypse. And yeah, it was good. It still wasn't as good as the original, but those are the only two scenes that I can think of. They might have had one in Dark Phoenix. I didn't watch it. But those are the only two scenes that have done that so well. This is just stupid. He literally turns the guy's head, and it's done. Why even bother then? Why bother wasting all the effects and all of the practical stuff that you had to set up to do this? It's not even that impressive. You wasted so much time and money on that. when you could have just done a quick little gag that would have been even funnier, similar to, SpongeBob, to be honest, which I know it's weird to reference a kid's show when I'm talking about how this show could be like Disney Channel. But to be fair, SpongeBob's, you want to see me run around that rock? You want to see me do it again? That's funny. That's hilarious. That is comedy gold. You could have done that here, and you chose not to. That scene where he explains his whole thing, yeah, I can think really fast too. You reshuffled the deck. What is up with the acting for the, I don't even remember what the name of the gang was now. They were absolutely awful. But she was definitely probably the worst one. She was so over the top with it. Something else that I just remembered. We have this moment in the story where it clearly shows, and I've said this before, I feel like the writers of a lot of these CW shows, they think their audience is stupid. They think their audience is dumb. And to be fair, the education system in our country is awful. But it's one thing to say that your audience is so dumb that you have to remind them stuff that they just saw 5 to 10 minutes ago. And it's funny because I have played a lot of like Phoenix Wright, Danganronpa. Games like that do tend to show you stuff to remind you. But in my mind, if you're playing a video game, there's a chance that you could pause it, save it, come back to it later. And so sometimes I feel like that reminding is just in case you put this game down for a few weeks and are just coming back to it. When you do this in an episode, you show a scene, and then you show another scene, you show another scene, and then 10 minutes later, you show those scenes again. I mean, do you think we're just sitting there on our phones? Okay, well, I guess I'll watch the episode now. What's happening? Oh, they stole that thing, and they stole that thing, and they stole that thing, and you're telling me that's the stuff that they needed to... I can't remember what the thing was called now. It's funny because it actually makes me remember it less because I'm so disconnected from the show. Because I feel like you're talking down to me so much that I get pissed off, and I just... My mind starts blocking out information. Like, I remember the stuff that happened. I don't remember all the stupid names that they gave. Like, I remember the microchip. I remember the power energy thing that they stole from the train. And I remember the guy they broke out of prison. I don't remember the names for any of them because I don't care. And that's the thing is you're giving me all this information as if it's like this big revelation, and you're reminding me, you remember when they did that 10 minutes ago? And remember when they did that 15 minutes ago? You remember when they did that literally 3 minutes ago? Yeah. Aren't you excited? No. And now I don't remember any of the names of the stuff because I don't care. I remember just enough to say, yeah, I can tell you what happened in this episode. I cannot give you any of the details though, because I do not give a shit because you have just pulled me out of this episode so much. But the final thing is obviously the whole Despero situation. I don't know. I don't really think this is going to be that interesting. First of all, the fact that Barry lets him read his mind, and he takes off his mask and tells him, I'm Barry Allen. He just read your mind, dumbass. Of course he knows who you are. It does feel as though this is going to be a misunderstanding of some sort. I don't know how, I don't know why. We've already had somebody corrupting Barry, though, so I can't imagine that they're going to go down that path again and make somebody else corrupt Barry, and that's why he's destroying the world. So I have to feel like this is a misunderstanding. It's not he was the one that was about to destroy the world. It's more so somebody else was about to, and he's trying to stop it, but Despero misunderstood the situation because he looked at it wrong or whatever. But this whole ultimatum of, oh, you can't do anything that I deem unworthy in the next 7 days. What is this? So what if he tells a white lie, is all of a sudden Despero just going to show up? Was that a lie? I'm going to destroy you now, Barry Allen. It feels dumb. Like, hey, prove yourself to this alien that you're a good person, or else he's going to kill you. Or you guys could just work together and try to find out why the world was being destroyed. Again, I believe there's still a very powerful AI that can look into the future. Have the AI look into the future and see, is this really happening or is he wrong? So obviously got 4 more episodes of this. I can't say that I'm excited. Again, a lot of the side stories are very boring. It feels like there's just not enough story for 5 episodes, so they are wasting so much time on the side stories, and I'm not looking forward to it at all. I mean, I don't really care about Allegra or Chuck. Both of them are just characters that I feel like the writers have not really done a good job of connecting me with. Also, the Iris praise, I forgot to mention this, but the Iris praise is still over the top. Everything she does is just, you're so great, you're so wonderful, you're so amazing, Iris. The more you say it, the less that I believe it. If you show me why she's amazing, I'll believe it. You just sitting there having characters talk about what a great person, what a great journalist, how amazing she is, blah, blah, blah. It feels like that kid that you know is telling a lie, but he feels like the more he says it and the more he doubles down on it, the more likely that you will be to believe it, even though you know he's telling a lie. That's kind of what it feels like here. The more you just consistently say, Iris is amazing, Iris is amazing, Iris is amazing, the less inclined I am to believe you because I'm not seeing it at all. I'm not seeing her do anything. She's just a journalist these days. She's just going out and writing stories and then talking about how powerful journalism is. It's not an interesting character. It's very one note. But anyways, all that being said, I'm finally done with this first episode. I realize it's probably been a long one. Hopefully these next two do not give me as much to talk about, but yeah, with how bad this show seems to be going, these could be very long ones. I'll see you guys there in just a second. And now for episode 2, part 2, obviously. So thankfully the side stories did calm down a little bit in this one. All of the side stories, thankfully, were focused in on the main story also. So that really helped this one. Still wouldn't say this is a good episode because I feel like there's a lot they're kind of pulling out of their ass, to be fair. But I do think this was definitely better than the first one where it felt like there was so much happening that had nothing to do with Armageddon. Now we're actually more so focused on it. So we've got side story with Chuck, the weapon thing, which I don't know, felt kind of forced. Oh, we need to build a weapon to hurt him real bad. Like, I don't know. Is this really that interesting? Oh, I don't want to build weapons. I'm a pacifist. I hurt a friend when I was 10 because I modded his little laser weapon and it burned down his family's house. Is that realistic for anybody? Do you think anybody else is out there dealing with having modded a friend's little laser gun and burning down their house? Do you think anybody else is going through that? Do you think anybody else is going, oh my goodness, I know exactly how he feels? No, nobody else has dealt with that. Yeah, we've all done stuff as a kid that we look back and we regret, and sometimes that can formulate what we grow up to be. This is so far out there that it was almost kind of ridiculous. I almost laughed, honestly, watching this scene, because it just seems so stupid to me to think, yeah, a 10-year-old kid could do something like that and burn down a friend's... Like, that's so crazy. Unrealistic, honestly. If anybody's actually gone through that, I apologize, and I really hope that you're okay. And mentally, you're fine. But I can't imagine anybody in the world has gone through that exact thing. The thing is, you could have played it a little bit more realistic. You could have either, first of all, had him older, so he's not 10 years old doing this, or you could have had it where he had a BB gun as a kid, and he shot somebody with it because they were bullying him, or they were hurting him, or they were hurting a friend, and he thought it was just, I'll just shoot him with the BB and it'll hurt him and they'll go away. And maybe it did something worse. Not necessarily kill, because obviously that would be awful. But maybe it did something like it took out their eye, or maybe it hit a certain part of their body in just the right way and it paralyzed something. I don't know. Make it something like that, where it was something small that is realistic that led to something big that is realistic. Not, I took a laser gun and I modified it and now my friend's house burned down. At least I think it was a laser gun. I really hope I'm right about that. I might have to go back and check and put it in here what it actually was if I'm wrong about the laser gun. But it just feels dumb to do that. Just give him a realistic reason for why he's a pacifist. Don't give this bullshit reason, please. As far as the main villainous one, all of it was fine. Mind control, it's whatever. Barry does his lightning thing and shocks her. Everything that's going wrong, though, it feels a little too calculated. I have to imagine that this is somebody's doing. I don't know who it would be, but I feel like somebody is doing this. Somebody set this up where there's a mind-controlling villain that just happens to be out right now. They just so happen to lose Star Labs, so that takes away so much of their stuff. I don't know what's going on with Barry. So Joe is dead. They confirmed that. And obviously that's shocking for us, the audience, because we didn't see him die. That's so weird. But now Barry is acting like he didn't die, but he he was acting like that earlier, or at least I thought he was earlier in the episode, because he was asking Cecile if she was okay. And all of a sudden he's like, wait, Joe's not dead. I mean, I guess he just died in between seasons because Jesse Martin decided to be off the show, and instead of giving him a real good send off, and they were just like, yeah, let's just write him off and then kill him off in between seasons, I guess. Like that's a great way to have your main characters basically father die. Fantastic writing there. Like I realize if the actor doesn't want to come back, sure, whatever. But at the same time, he should know, and I feel like whoever's producing this should be able to at least convince him, stay on for like 2 episodes and we'll kill your character off. Something along those lines. To just kill him off season, it seems weird to me. This setup also feels very weird because we as the audience don't know for sure that he's dead. There have been hints at it. They've had a few lines. They've not confirmed anything. There have been hints that he's dead. Now all of a sudden we're finding out as Barry is refinding out, I guess. I don't know if like the mind control messed with him and he forgot the past 6 months. Now it's like, I can't tell if he just forgot everything that happened before, or if this is all of a sudden like, no, this didn't happen. Joe's not actually dead. And now he's having this illusion that he's dead. It's set up so weird that I can't tell if this is confusing because that's what the writers wanted it to be, or if it's confusing because this is just bad writing. But I'm pretty sure he's actually dead and Barry has just forgotten the past 6 months for some reason. And obviously he's having moments of blackout where he's going and attacking people or going and attacking in the loft and he doesn't remember. So I don't know. All of this feels just very weird. And I feel like what's sad about it is I am actually not sure whether or not it's confusing because that's intentional. They want it to be confusing for us as well because this is very mind-bending for Barry and they want us to experience what he's feeling too, where we just have no idea what's going on and when all of this is happening. Or if it's confusing because it's just bad writing. Either one to me seems very, very possible, which is kind of sad to think about with this show. But if it's confusing intentionally, then good job, because I truly don't know. I did think it had something to do with Zotara. Maybe it does. Maybe somehow her powers linger, or maybe it messed with his mind just enough, and the added stress of knowing what's going to happen, knowing what's coming, worrying that he might be going mad, his abilities as well might have affected it differently. There's a lot of possibilities, I guess, that could relate to what her powers did to him. But personally, I think it's more so somebody is messing with him right now. The only one that makes sense would be Despero. I don't know why that would be, because he is the one that is trying to stop him, to kill him, to save the world. So it wouldn't make sense that he's the one driving him mad by doing all of this stuff to set him up for it. That wouldn't make sense to me. Like, oh, I need a good reason to kill you. The only thing I can think of is maybe he wants to be seen as a hero when he kills the Flash, so he's driving him mad to this point, so that way he can be, no, look, I did the world a favor, I saved the world, but he just wants to kill the Flash for some reason. It seems more likely that it's somebody else, though, that I don't know how they would know about Despero. I don't know how they would be able to mess with Barry's mind and all this. It would probably be another person who has these powers, these telepathic powers, so that way they could mess with his mind. They could have him have blackouts and all of that stuff. I don't know who that could possibly be. And the other thing that's a little weird to me is it feels like this is the season so far of cameos, because in the first one we had Ray Palmer, this one we have Alex, and now I'm assuming the next episode's going to feature a lot of Black Lightning since he showed up at the end of this episode. I do wonder if the show Black Lightning was already done by this point and this was him returning, because I know Supergirl definitely was done, and obviously Ray Palmer was done with the Legends at this point. So it does sort of feel like, hey, would you guys mind coming back since you're not on your own shows anymore? I don't know exactly what he plans to do. Obviously, Black Lightning has lightning power, so maybe somehow find a way to control his own lightning and his powers so that he can't hurt anybody if he starts to lose his mind. I don't know how that would work, but that's just all I can think of when I see him on the show. I will say the final line, though, from Barry, it's a little cringy. I almost half expected him to be like, injustice. You know, the game where Superman went mad and started killing everybody? We're doing that, but with me instead. Yeah. I don't know, just what's going on? Injustice. How does that explain anything, Barry? It doesn't. That's just terrible writing and in my opinion, it's a clear reference to the game, because that's what happens in the game. Superman goes crazy and he starts killing everybody, tries to take over the world. Here, basically, similar thing. Barry's starting to go crazy, might destroy the world. It's Injustice, guys, but it's in live action, and it's not a game, it's a TV show now. But we called this Armageddon, so I don't know. What are we doing anymore? But with all that being said, that's about it for this one, at least as far as I can remember. So moving on to episode 3. I'll see you there. And finally, episode 3, part 3. So I guess it does make sense that Thawne would be involved in all of this. At least I'm assuming that's Thawne, because I'm pretty sure all the wells are gone except for the one that can travel through time. Although, I guess if somebody's messing with time, it would kind of make sense that Wells that has the power to travel through time might have the ability to do so. But no, it makes more sense if it's Thawne. I don't know how or why. I don't even really, I know he showed up at the end of last season, but I don't even really remember how they stopped him and what happened to him afterward. Does he suddenly have this ability to mess with the timeline? If so, does that mean that Joe is actually still going to be alive after all of this, or are his changes just permanent that he's making? I don't know. And what's also kind of frustrating, and I know I talked about this last season as well, it's frustrating that we went through the crisis, that we have this moment with Oliver where he sacrifices himself to bring all the timelines into one. No more branching timelines, no more different worlds, no more multiverse. One timeline. And we talked about last season how we see Barry traveling through time, we see his kids traveling through time, as if none of that even matters. And it was very frustrating. Well, now we have a whole scenario, this Armageddon, built around they're changing the timeline. And I'm just sitting here going, why do these writers want to just shit on Oliver's sacrifice that much? Here's the thing. I still have kind of mixed opinions on the ending of Crisis. I still sometimes go, oh, it was a little weird. It was a little too easy to wrap up. But when I really think about it, it makes sense for that to be kind of the final wrap up. It makes sense for that to be the conclusion for Arrow, for Oliver's story. All of that, it makes sense to me. Because it's a nice little wrap-up where now he has become something greater, like he was talking about. And now with these shows existing on one network, I like the idea of, we can have one world now. It's all together. It's all connected. It's not separate multiverse. But now here we are, and it feels like what they're doing is creating branching timelines. It feels like they're changing time. They're changing the branches. I mean, even Dion's talking to Iris about her time sickness. Apparently she's slipping in between timelines. So why are there multiple timelines if Oliver sacrificed himself to make it one timeline? It just feels like the writers of this show basically said, you know what? We don't want to listen to what happened in Crisis because it makes our jobs more difficult if we can't play with time travel. So we're just going to ignore that. We're going to pretend like that didn't really happen, and we're just going to focus on what we're doing here, which is time travel still exists. Timelines still exist. Cool. So that is frustrating, and something else that's kind of frustrating is Cecile in this one. She's obviously been growing in importance ever since she got her powers, but I will say in this one she got a little unbearable, to the point of I really did not like her in this episode. First of all, her blow up on Iris was... I wanted Iris to slap her in the face. Because the thing is, I understand she's grieving because she loved Joe, clearly, and they have a daughter and all that. Not saying that that's not sad. However, you are saying all of this stuff to his daughter. I mean, could you imagine if your dad died and you had a stepmom and your stepmom started yelling at you, saying that you don't know what she's going through? I mean, could you imagine? I couldn't imagine that. My stepmom did that to me. I'd punch her right in the face. That scene to me was wholly uncalled for. And the thing is, if we get an apology from Cecile later, cool. I hope she wisens up, but we didn't get that in this episode. In fact, if anything, she almost got more emboldened by what she was saying. She got more like, yeah, we're going to do this. I'm going to go talk to this Vertigo girl. We're going to bring her in. We're going to work together to find Barry. And even then, she still was just kind of unbearable. And it was that same feeling where I figured at some point she was going to get stronger than Despero. I got that feeling because she got beaten at the end of last episode at some point there would be this feeling of, oh, I'm just not strong enough to do this. No, Cecile, you are strong. And so sure enough, we get in this episode and we got Vertigo telling her to push down her feelings so it could build her power. And she's like, no, I need to feel my feelings and that makes me strong. Once again, it's Disney Channel logic. It really is. Just watching her get down on herself and Caitlin giving her this inspirational speech so that she's so amazing, she's strong and powerful, and yeah, go Cecile. I don't know, after 8 seasons of this, are we not sick of it by this point? I swear almost every episode in every single season has this speech, has this you're powerful, you're amazing, you can do this speech. Are we not sick of it? Are we not done with this by now? So I'm just at that point where, can we just move on, please? Can we just focus in on the story instead of trying to build these characters up again and again? Because every character goes through it. It's not like there's one character that just constantly needs to be built up. Every character, you have this moment where, no, you're doing great. You're doing a good job. You're amazing. I mean, Chuck was in the last episode getting built up. We had Iris in the first one getting built up. Now Cecile in this one getting built up. It's just consistently, every episode, we're getting this you're amazing speech. Please stop. Please show us them being amazing instead of constantly telling us they're amazing. It's so lazy. It's so lazy for writers to do that, to just write an inspiration. Some people may think that, oh, writing inspirational speeches is difficult, having to come up with the right words for it. It's really not. There's just certain key words you have to throw in there, and suddenly you've got you're strong, you're powerful, you're inspirational. I mean, that's 3 right off the top of my head right now, and I'm sure if I thought about it, I could come up with so many more, because it's just so easy to come up with those words and put them into a speech, and suddenly, oh, what an inspirational speech that was. It's easy to do. What's difficult is actually showing it happening, is actually having these scenes where we get to see these characters being powerful, show them being powerful. And actually, I shouldn't even say that. It's not that hard to do. It just takes a little bit more work. It takes time to craft these scenes, to show Cecile growing in her power, to have these moments where, yeah, she can be stronger than this guy, but don't have these long, powerful speeches talking about why she's amazing that lead to that moment. Just show her realizing what's going on, show her taking the pain of what happened to Joe, and yeah, if Caitlin needs to be there for her to bounce off of, that's fine, but we don't need to have these long speeches where one character's downing on themselves and the other one's building them up. It's just been too much. It's been too consistent every episode, every season. I'm sick of it by this point. As far as Iris in this episode, I mean, a lot of it's just her investigating her dad's death. There is one moment which, again, another inspirational speech from Allegra talking about hope, talking about what she went through with Esperanza and all of that to her. So it's just another speech, but the temporal thing is a little weird. The fact that she can see this. I know she's got this time slipping, whatever she's going through, but it still does feel like we needed Iris to be important. So let's use this time sickness that she has to, I don't know, she sees something that nobody else does. And okay, sure. That's how you want to include Iris in the story, then sure. Go ahead. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden she ripped off her outer shirt and revealed that she's actually Supergirl underneath, because that's what the writers want to do with Iris. They just want to turn her into a superhero. Even though I've said this so many times, I really liked it when she was on the team, but she didn't have any powers. She didn't have anything that was superhuman. She was just good at what she did. She was good at knowing people's strengths, knowing how to communicate with everybody and organize the team to utilize their abilities at the best. I thought that was really cool. I don't understand. The CW in general just has this fixation of giving every character something superhuman, something that makes them super, super powerful, instead of relying on their own skills. And I don't understand why. Let them have their own abilities, please. Let them work with their own abilities and be powerful in that way. That's perfectly fine, and it's actually more empowering if you don't give them superpowers. And then the last thing is, of course, Barry and Jefferson and all the stuff they're talking about. And I mean, it's also the same. It's at the end there, Jefferson trying to build Barry up, trying to tell him that he's the best of them and all this stuff. And I didn't really like that. I did like the callback though, because I I'm pretty sure I vaguely remember, because I watched the first season of Black Lightning, and I'm pretty sure I remembered that quote from his dad about, whose life is it? What are you going to do with it? All that stuff. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that from the first season. And if that is the case, then that's a cool little callback. But outside of that, I mean, a lot of it is just Barry's looking into this. Apparently, Injustice, it's not a reference to the video. It is a reference to the video game, but it is also something they put into place if any of them went rogue, like Superman does in the game Injustice, and that's why they called it Injustice. No, it's because if any of them went rogue, then nobody'd be able to stop them. So I thought that was a little bit silly that they called it Injustice, but whatever. It's a reference. I get it. It didn't really make me chuckle, but I'm sure there are several people out there that are going, "Oh, they called it because of the game. Oh, that's so cool." But obviously from here we've got 2 episodes left. I don't really know what to expect with this. I don't know where it's going to go from here. I assume Thawne is going to be heavily involved. This may be a red herring, because it does seem a little weird that we're finding out right now at the end of the 3rd episode who's behind all of this. I figured if we did find out who was behind all of this, I figured it would be more so the end of the 4th episode, which would set up for the ultimate battle in the 5th episode. So maybe there will be a twist, but I will say having Thawne be the one behind it, it does make sense in the idea of who would want to convince the world that Barry is crazy and he's evil and he's going to destroy the world. Well, Thawne, obviously. He's definitely Barry's biggest hater. So if anybody would want to do all of this, it would be him. But I just don't understand how he was able to change the timeline like he did. Assuming that he changed the timeline to make it to where Joe died when he wasn't supposed to, I guess somehow he allowed Barry to think he was living in the original timeline before he changed it, and that's why he thinks Joe is still alive. Either that or it's the writer's fault for changing the script and making it where Joe died this time instead of living. Who knows? But with all that being said, that about does it for these 3 episodes. I know this was a bit of a longer one, and I do apologize for that, but obviously there was a lot to talk about in that first episode. So let me know down in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on these 3 episodes? Let me know, we could talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Flash reviews. Also check out the channel. We have a lot of TV show reviews on here, as well as a couple Let's Plays, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you all later. Peace out.